This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, we are back here in the fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcasts for the People. We're at the one in Boca Raton, Florida. Boca Raton in Spanish. I have a Venezuelan in the house. Boca Raton, does that mean rat's mouth? Does. They should change that. Anyway, it's very nice. Although there's a lot of critters here, as I always say here. It's the closest thing to Jurassic Park is South Florida. I got to do a quick read because we get a lot of casting notices for reality TV shows because obviously you guys are the pool that they want to fish in for this. I'm going to read, and it actually ties into what I want to get into. So here we go. Are you dating someone online that you're ready to meet for the first time? If so, listen up. This TV casting call may be the one for you. They are now casting virtual couples who've yet to meet in person. That is a real thing. It is from Emmy Award-winning Buna Murray Productions. You know them. They produce The Real World on MTV and a whole bunch of other things. And this show is on a major cable network. They are now casting a new relationship experiment TV show. So if you are in love with somebody that you've never met in person, and there's all sorts of reasons for this, from the pandemic to long distance to you're just plain nervous, whatever the reason, make your meeting the most memorable experience of your lives. In this relationship experiment, you will meet the individual that you are falling for or have fallen for in person for the first time ever. Don't worry about trying to decide where, when, and how to meet your online love. They've got it covered, the producers of the show. An adventure of a lifetime is just one click away. So to apply, go to BMP, like Buna Murray Productions, bmpcasting.com/nevermet. That is bmpcasting.com/nevermet. It's open to all ages over 21. Good luck with that. And I bring that up and say that how it ties into, because we deal with all kinds of personalities on the show. We deal with all kinds of relationship situations. We have had polyamorous people on this show. We have had what was the one I talked to? We've had divorced people on this show. We've had college sweethearts on this show who never dated anybody else. I don't think, as far as we know, now we don't test for this. I don't know if there is a way to test for this. We don't test for virginity, but we have a virgin in the house, everybody. And she is not, I'm not going to say she's old, but she's not young. I'll say she's over 40. We can get into what she has. She has a lot I want to talk about. That's the thing that's like, wait, what? That's the thing that got her in here today, because she looks like, don't take this the wrong way, she looks like somebody that people want to have sex with. I mean, maybe is that offense? Is there a compliment in there some way? She's also an author. She's an impressionist. I'm going to let her do impressions in a while. Bon vivant. She's a very mindful coach to a lot of you people, and she could help you in a lot of ways. We're gonna start with the virginity, and we're gonna go on a lot. Barb Heller, how are you?
I've never been told that, but you look like someone that people would want to sleep with. But and I'm sure I'm not like I haven't been asked, but
right,
yeah.
I met a girl one time in New York City. She was in her 30s. She was smoking hot, and she was also a virgin. Her reason was very specific. She was grossed out physically. Like, I looking outside, I see a little lizard there. Yeah. She's like, the male body is, she's not a lesbian. She likes men. She's like, the male body is, I don't want that thing in me. It freaks me out. Maybe she had some trauma unresolved or whatever, but she was like, she was beautiful. Sure. And she's like, what am I supposed to do about it? She's like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to touch it. And I don't want it to touch me. Yeah. What's the answer? I don't think that's your answer.
No.
I don't want to guess.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go backwards a little bit, and then we'll get not too deep into your virginity, but whatever. When did you decide? Was it a decision early on, or somewhere along the line where you're like, well, listen, I've made it to 30. Let's see how long we can keep this going?
That's very, very astute, and almost. That's an almost. And by the way, I have a series called Almost on YouTube that won an award. People might want to see it. It's a romantic.
We'll
comedy.
get to the plugs later.
Okay, sorry. No, I don't know why. Every time I say almost, I think of that. So yeah, it wasn't a conscious decision. I grew up right here in Southern Florida. And I was a late bloomer because I did experience some trauma. It wasn't sexual, thank God, but it was I had domestic violence in my house growing up. And I was what you would call a parentified child, both my sister and I. My parents kind of unloaded on us, and both of them. So I had this like forced intimacy, and it's sort of like a silent disease that affects a family. A lot of people suffer from this because, especially I would think in certain cultural, situations, like I'm an Ashkenazi Jew. And so both my parents come from Jewish families. There's a lot of guilt and shame and blame. And there's a lot of emotional abuse because we were in hiding. Like and this is how my parents talked to me, and we were codependent. So I'm going to talk to you that way. And I think we were lucky in our generation. Yes, I am over 40, that we, were raised with sort of this idea like, oh, maybe we should think differently about child raising. And so I actually used my first paycheck working at the Gap in Town Center Mall to go to therapy. And I think because I was already in my head as a teenager, and it's not like I had a bunch of hot guys in high school that I was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
I don't know. I always took my body very seriously. Like I've never smoked pot. I've never done a drug. I was drunk once.
Well, it's only 2:00.
That's true. But I I'll drink like a cup of, Moscato on Friday night on Shabbat, but I'm just not interested. And because I think I was always a theater kid and my life was always super up and down, I already had extreme highs and extreme lows. And I was bullied as a kid. And so I didn't realize I was pretty till I went to theater camp. Like I had that normal, I guess, I'm a loser thing until I was a teenager. And then even then I was like, no one will want to date me until I went to theater camp. They were like, no, you're actually really pretty. And I was like, really? Like this is, and so I was a super late bloomer. And then in high school, and I went to theater camp in high school, by the way. So like towards the middle of high school, I met my two best friends who both happened to be bisexual. And one's a guy, one's a girl. And I adored and loved them because they were so cool and they liked me. And they were like, really be open. You should be open to all sexuality. So I was like, okay. And so I had like, not only was I a late bloomer, and I was afraid of men because of seeing my parents hate each other.
Right.
Like, it's a great birth control. Like if you really want your kids not to have sex, just fight in front of them all the time.
Explains
Don't
a
respect
lot.
them. Yeah. Sorry, this is a really loaded answer, but you asked. And so when I was in high school, I sort of, I kissed a girl. The song came out not too late into high school. And I just was like overwhelmed. And I was like, well, what am I? And I loved Ellen. And then when I was a freshman in college, she came out. Or maybe she was, I don't remember, somewhere in college she came out. I did a report on her and she was coming out of the closet. So I was like, oh, I must be gay because I'm not, I haven't had a serious boyfriend yet. And maybe that's what the issue is. It actually wasn't that, because I went on a date with a girl when I was in college and I was like, oh, this isn't right. And nothing really happened physically, but I wasn't even remotely interested.
So like, it's not that.
Yeah. Like that's how disconnected it was from my body.
Which is normal. And if you're going through that now, that's all normal.
It's okay to
and now it's okay to think about it. It's just like, I don't feel a certain way. Where that changes generally is either during college or after college, where that sort of the numbers sort of drop off the cliff. For women, over 30, there are far more male virgins than female virgins.
What?
Mostly because the females are in charge of the merchandise, for lack of speak. So unless the dude is paying for it or something, which a lot of guys aren't allowed to do, they're just sitting home with PlayStation and porn. Like they're not. But so it really changes, like that the women really at some point, they're like, either make a conscious decision, I'm going to lose my virginity tonight, or I'm going to do this. Right. And then the men get down the road. There's not much they can do, within reason.
That's good to
So that does flip. So you get into your 30s when... Okay, it's not like a grocery list. Like, you know what? I haven't done that.
No. Okay, so I was like, I wrote a show about this. I'm writing a memoir, and it's, please God, going to be a series for like some streaming service. So there's a lot to say about it. So I'm trying really.
Can you read the log line?
I can.
Read the log line. For you non-Hollywood types, log line is sort of like what it's about. Read the log line.
Okay. A 45-year-old virgin contemplates what if anything has gone right in her life and finds that her love for God trumps everything else.
Okay. So
So now I'm about to get to chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Yeah,
so that
and I'll try to be
so
brief.
at some point you're like it's a you're like is it a sexuality thing? Is it a parent thing? Is it a religious thing?
Okay. And by the way, I left out the fact that I did have like kissing experiences and some touching, like when I was in high school and also in college, but it was very brief, and I would go on like one date with somebody and then I'd be freaked out.
PG-13.
Intimacy. Totally, not even. Mostly PG.
PG, okay.
Mostly on the G,
Disney Channel.
Well, Disney Plus is
Disney Plus
doing interesting things
yeah.
right now. But yeah, sorry, did I kick you? So I, in college, was still very like, hands off. I'm going to be an actor. I got to focus. I've got a timeline. I put it on my wall. I didn't have a vision board, but I had a timeline. And by 30, I was going to win an Emmy, and I was going to get married and have kids in my early 30s. So that led to a lot of sadness, which I'll talk about later. But so I'm 23, 24, auditioning for Broadway in New York City. And I've had a rough road as an artist because my parents decided to finally get divorced when I was a freshman in college. My dad leaves for somebody. And it was really, really hard, to say the least, for everybody. But, I was in New York for the first time. I was going to NYU and in Tisch, and had worked so hard to get the heck out of my home. And then I find out, oh, we have no money. You're on your own. And after my freshman year, I fly home because I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those kids that drops out of college. I have to go to college, even if I'm just going to be an actor. Right. So I go to UF, and after college, after I finally get back to New York City and I'm auditioning for Broadway and I'm getting really close, and I was in a bunch of tours and doing cabaret and stand-up, I'm 24, and I'm at this point, I feel I've already been doing this for like 6-7 years, where I'm working so hard and I have no money. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea, because I don't know if I can handle it anymore. I've already been a starving artist for, really for this long. And so I thought maybe I should just take a break. And then bam, I get a paid, beeper, Paige, from my friend. She goes, come to this Shabbat dinner.
Paige, God, you're old.
Yeah, I'm 45.
Yeah.
And she says, come to Shabbat dinner. And I go, and I meet these incredible people. And I'm Jewish, but like I'm very much on the ish at this point. I've been to Thailand, India, Japan, Hong Kong, starving for like some sort of, I was spiritual, but I was not interested in organized religion at all. Okay. I'm coming from the theater.
So usually goes the other way.
Totally. And so I sit at this table and I'm with these modern Orthodox Jews. I'm like, what the heck is that? I've never heard of that before. Right. I thought Orthodox meant crazy, off the rails, no deodorant. I had these weird theories about Orthodox people because I grew up secular and they're all misogynistic, whatever. So, and I'm like, this is so fun. And I was like, okay, but they're in a cult, clearly. And I wind up going to this retreat on a whim because someone invites me and they give me a scholarship and it's in Florida, and I couldn't wait to get out of New York in the winter. And they're like, can you teach improv? And I'm like, well, I go to this place called the UCB. It had just opened and I was taking classes and seeing like Tina Fey 5 feet away from me every day. She was just the head writer on SNL. No one knew who she was. So of course I could teach improv. I'm like hanging out with the greats, and I think I'm a loser because it's this tiny theater and like I'm struggling to pay for it and work there. Anyway.
So the religion triggered that?
So I go to this retreat and I fall in love with God. I'm like head over heel. Like I meet this rabbi.
What was he wearing?
He wasn't there.
Oh.
And I say he, she,
in
whatever.
absentia.
The guy.
I heard
whatever.
the he. I heard the he.
No, the rabbi, who is like a representative, clearly, Rabbi David Aaron, who's incredible, comes out of the forest. We're in this forest. And I love camp. I've always loved camping and, glamping, but whatever. We're having s'mores. We're eating vegan. Never had that before for
Hear that, kids? Jew camp.
Jew camp. It was amazing. And it was 150 strangers. It should have been a reality show. It was incredible. I meet all these people. I'm like, these people are my kind of people. I never knew I had a kind because I love all people. But like if I
You felt you belonged.
Felt like I belonged. And then I look at the rabbi and I say, what does Judaism say about sex? And he goes, and I'm thinking, and I've always been afraid to say that word. It's too intimate. It feels unhealthy. There's something, I have a trauma around
Jewish?
talking about.
Oh, sex.
No, about like talking sex with like a rabbi.
So you said the word sex to a rabbi.
Yeah, I said, what does it mean? Because I'm 24 and a half and I still haven't. And he goes, what? He couldn't believe it.
Well, because Jews are fairly liberal about sex.
Oh yeah, like 90% of us.
Right.
Yeah. So I was raised by those people.
Right. I was raised Catholic, opposite.
Yeah.
Sex
You
is
have
wrong.
shame, we have guilt. Right?
Correct.
So, but you're half Jewish, right? Your dad?
My dad's family's Jewish, yes.
Okay. So anyway, I sit with him in this little cabin, and he was just so kind and told me about this thing called the mikvah, which is a spiritual bath for women, and also men have their own. And he told me about the fact that we are supposed to have sex 18 days out of the month, but there's 7 to 12 days, depending on a woman's cycle,
That's a good pitch.
that you don't.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, well, what do people do? Because like the whole world is like into doing that all the time. Not me, but every normal
Right.
person. And he says, you find other languages of love. And this is before I read the book, The Languages of Love. I don't
Right.
even know if it had come out yet. It was so brilliant to me. It made so much sense. He's like, you have to find what matters to them and look in their eyes and talk to them. You don't touch at all. I say, you don't touch at all? No, you don't touch. You don't handhold. In fact, you're supposed to put pillows in between you and the bed, or you sleep in separate beds.
Right.
And I'm like, is that hole in the sheet? He goes, that is such a misnomer.
The whole she's not a real thing?
No. And I'm so mad at Larry David for like capitalizing on
Yeah.
it. It's the seat. You know, the seat that men wear, like the strings that hang.
Yeah.
So there's a hole in the middle of that.
Oh.
And they would hang it up on the line, and people thought it was a sheet.
Oh.
It's the undergarments of a man.
Fun fact.
Yeah. Fun misinformation.
So back up. So I like that a fun environment, a happy environment. You know, people
Creative
criticize
it.
all sorts
Oh,
of
yeah.
religions, but
No
you get a
shaming.
flock of Mormons. Do they travel in a flock? Is that the
don't
word?
know.
Is that the proper a herd? They come around. They're generally pretty happy.
Yeah.
You go to the Scientology Center in Los Angeles
God.
for brunch. They have the best French toast, and that's how they lure you in. Like, I want to go to a place where French toast, and suddenly you're level 4 Scientologist. But you felt a belonging that you haven't
Yes.
felt before at a time when you needed to feel that your family became detached and they weren't an anchor for you. So that makes sense. You asked a question about sex, and when he doesn't say you shouldn't, he says, yes, here's how and when. And
Yeah.
but you took that to mean what?
So I started to cry because something about the thing that he said and the way he said it, and he's just such a cool person. He doesn't sell God or Judaism. He sells love. He's talking, and it sounds like a hippie. He is
Okay.
kind of hippie-ish.
But that's good.
But to him, he's he also didn't grow up religious. His mom was in the Holocaust, and she would wake up in the middle of the night in sweats and screaming, and no one ever explained it to him. So he was so not interested in Judaism.
Right.
But he also had this really weird, like metaphysical experience, like I did in that bunker with him. When he was in his early 20s in Israel, some guy walked up to him at the Wailing Wall, and he was like, "I'm just here for the weed," kind of thing. And this guy walked up to him, pointed to him, and said, "Come with me." And he was like, "Why?" And then that man became his rabbi because he challenged him, and he said, "Look at this text. Tell me what you see." And he's like, "Why do you want to know from me? I'm just like this short little guy
Right.
from Canada." So anyway, it was a truth that I couldn't explain, and I felt held, and I felt like there was a part of me that mattered that no one had ever told me before. And maybe that's, you can call it virginity. I wouldn't
So
even
you
call it
felt
that. I would call it
a
holiness.
fulfillment that
Yeah.
you didn't need the sex. Is that a way to put it? Like, it was just irrelevant?
Oh, I love the way you questioned that. I've never thought of putting words to it. I just felt like,
It's a podcast, so we have to put words to it.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
but-
mean, there had to be a moment there where it didn't get dismissed. It didn't get buried. It just kind of got put on the shelf, and your focus changed.
because he cared about the real intimacy. In fact, in his book, Endless Light, which I pretty much sell every day because people are like, "What's a good book on Judaism?" It's out of print, but you can find it on Amazon for like a penny. Okay. There's a moment, I always call it a scene, where he says intimacy should really be written into me see. In other words,
Yes.
it's not ever really. You
Right.
can ask the most sexually active person, and I believe from my short-lived 45 years and traveling around the world many times and talking to a lot of strangers is like, I find the happiest people are the ones who experience true intimacy all the time. And it's not necessarily through their bodies. It's better if they're really connected emotionally.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. We got a lot more to get into.
Yeah, okay.
I got to take a quick break. We're here with Barbara Heller. We're talking about all things, including the things she has not done. We will be back right after this. And we are back. Okay. Where we left off, you were in your 20s at this point.
Yeah.
You got a long way to go to get to today.
I'm
So,
sorry.
so
Okay.
no, not I'm sorry. I'm just
Okay.
like, okay,
Yeah.
you have this moment. I need to find a connection with somebody, which a lot of people see and believe and feel.
Yeah.
What?
Even if they're not aware of it, they feel
Right.
it.
And that's a
Because we all
good, that's a
think
good
we want that.
thing.
Right.
You're still talking about 20 years where either that didn't happen or you didn't allow it to happen.
Right. Well, it's usually the latter, right? So in that moment, I said, well, how do I get those 18 days of beautiful intimacy with someone that's also physical? He says, that's a great question. Not enough people are asking that. So I said, you mean like you have to be married? He said, yeah. And all of a sudden I felt this release of pressure because growing up in a house where there was emotional abuse and domestic violence, I felt, and you know, it's funny because people are like, well, you weren't sexually abused. So like, why does it, to me,
You felt like you didn't want to be married.
well, no, I wanted to be safe when I was dating.
Okay.
I just wanted safety. And I took me a long time to trust men, number one.
Okay. Reasonable.
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes if there's people who choose a different route just because they are afraid of trying to be with.
Well, a lot of people, if they have trauma or issues with men, they can go the other way. Just like
Yeah,
the
Dennis
child of an
Prager talks about this.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
They can go drunk
Exactly.
all the time or never have a drink.
Right.
You know, I grew up not in a abusive house, but in a house where I didn't feel anybody loved each other. That emotionally walled me off for a long, long time with a long people. That's why I'm not married
Yeah.
yet. But again, it's only 2:00.
That's right. Yeah.
So
good. I love that.
So
So
how does it manifest as a relationship? Can you be asked out?
yeah, of course. But in that moment, I think I made a decision that I was going to date for marriage because that would keep me safe. So from 24 until now, the only dates I go on is they have to click a couple of boxes in order for me to even go on the date. And it has to be that, like,
Give me those boxes. Give me 3 boxes.
Okay. So Jewish is important, or in
Why?
their process of converting to be
Okay.
Jewish.
You're in South Florida. That's a pretty big
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah. Why is that important?
Yeah.
Well, there are certain Jewish guys I can't even date because I believe in God.
But people believe in God and not be Jewish.
I secretly think everyone actually believes in something bigger than all of us. They can call it whatever they want.
Right.
But the Schwartz, the Force, the universe,
Yeah.
Louise Hay.
So what
I
if
don't
they're
know.
like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in, I believe in God, but I don't believe in
So that's what I'm saying.
the traditions and rituals that you believe in.
Okay. So first of all, the rituals are not something to necessarily believe in. You can support them and say, I
Yeah.
want to do this with my family. That actually doesn't even bother me. I don't care how religious the person is. But if they are turned off by the fact that I'm going to say, and you know what? I wonder if God wants, or if this verse in the Torah, like that I talk about.
But most people won't be turned off by that.
That's so sweet.
I don't
just
think
went
they
out with
would.
a guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I have dating stories galore. I really would love to do a show with you where we just do dating stories because that would be so fun. But anyway,
Okay.
I mean, I wrote a show based on it.
We'll get to your dating stories in a second.
No, but one of them recently
Yeah.
is a guy who is a medical professional, sends his son to the most religious yeshiva in his town. I don't want to say anything
Yeah.
about details. And he wears a kippah, a yarmulke, all day long. And he's more religious than I am. Like, I'm not exactly in the box Orthodox right now
Right.
in this moment in my life. And he says to me, you say God so much. I'm like, what? He's like, you're so into it. Like, you really believe. So I say, you don't want to date me? He goes, well, it's kind of a turn off.
Well, I know, but there's quite a few
It's hilarious.
people who do that. You could be an evangelical Christian and talk about God a lot.
Right.
That's fine. I mean, I talk about pork ribs a lot, and that's not for everyone.
Right.
Or cheeses or the New York Giants. I get it. But it's something that you're passionate about. Somebody can respect that. But trying to say, like, I need somebody, as we've said this on the podcast before, it's almost like trying to hit 2 bullseyes. Because I'm trying to hit my own, and then I'm trying to make sure that their bullseye matches up with me. It's like the Christian people are like, I need to date somebody equally yoked. And I'm like, why? Because you're both on a journey, probably at different speeds,
Exactly.
and your own opinion on what God means and all this has changed many times in your
Many
life.
times. Yeah.
So you're like, I only want this box checked.
So it's more like spiritual and Jewish. Very important to me.
Okay, so they're not mutually exclusive.
They are, because, I mean, theoretically they're not, but I would like to have a home where we keep Shabbat in our own way.
That's
and
fine.
There's kosher food.
Well,
in the
look at
fridge
Ivanka
and-
Trump. They're Orthodox, right?
Yeah. I know they're rabbi. Actually.
Yeah, that's bold.
Okay.
She
So
switched.
that's the first one. I also.
Okay, so we checked off one. Jewish. You probably got 2 million candidates here.
Yeah. Kind and.
Narrows it down. Probably about 500,000.
And it's interesting how people think they're kind.
I don't know how
they
you
like
determine that without dating them, but
Right. Exactly. It's something you have to
Okay.
see over time. And then, I really like, for me, the biggest turn on is someone who could make me laugh.
okay, you're filled with a lot of hammy New York Jewish people down here, so that's
Yeah.
a couple 100,000 left in the
I
pool.
hope so. Yeah. And then, I want to be with somebody who is, I guess those are the three most
Right,
important
but doesn't
things,
everybody has that?
yeah, but you'd be surprised how, for some reason, those three things have not exactly lined up. Because everyone thinks they're funny, but they're not.
I know.
To me, yeah,
I
you know.
No, I
You know
agree.
when
No,
you're
everybody
funny.
thinks they're funny or everybody wants funny. But the
Right.
three things you name, believes in God or on some level, most people want that.
Right.
I could care less, but most people want that. Kind, most people want that.
Yeah.
Funny, most people want that.
Why is it so hard? Right.
Well, no, it's hard, but I don't know why you think that if somebody has those three things, like this has to be a long list that I think you might be putting too many boxes to check before you have
No.
married. So the sex is coming after marriage. You've drawn that line in the sand, which is fine. Tim Tebow did it.
So
Yeah, you've gone this far.
okay, so then I still didn't get to. I don't know if I got to the point of it all, but in that moment, I said I'm going to date for marriage, and he said the fact that you've waited this long, because I was only waiting to be
Yeah.
in love, and I wasn't allowing myself to be in love
Mm-hmm.
up until that point. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally want to be in love, and I totally want to get married, and I totally want to have kids. I have to get there by 30. I better start dating now. And so
Right.
I started going on these shidduch dates, these Orthodox like arranged dates.
Yeah.
And I decided in that moment at 24 and a half,
Mm-hmm.
looking at this rabbi, that I would stop touching men.
Okay, high five?
Like not even a hug.
Not even a hug.
Yeah. So from 24 to 30, 31, I really did. I like barely touched anybody. And I was so good in my little box, even though I'd be wearing pants and tank tops and I was trying to figure out
What if
how
somebody
religious I wanted to be.
shook your hand?
I wouldn't be. Well, there is actually a mitzvah, a minhag around the mitzvah, a custom around it that if someone shakes your hand,
Yeah.
you can't be like, I don't touch men.
Well,
you
COVID
can't
helped
embarrass
you.
them. Yeah, that's true. Dr. Fauci actually said, regardless of whether you like him or not, we should
We
never
should just
be
do
touching hands again.
Why, I think they call it in Thailand, where they just bow.
Namaste. So yeah, so I didn't do that, and then at 31, I sort of woke up one day and I was like, this is a little too much for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I need to, and I never made that decision. Like, I guess if I had fallen in love in that really kind of dark period where I was really questioning, like, oh my God, I just
Right.
gave up 6 of the best years of this body and this,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, I don't know about the sex drive part, but the other, it was like, whoa, like maybe I should.
So you're not dormant. You have sex drive.
I have definitely. Yes.
Okay. So you are. Do you tell guys?
That I have a sex drive.
No, that you're a virgin, or you're not having sex, or you're married, or what your goals are. Like, does that
this is
come
the
up
first-
before the appetizer?
This is the first time I've actually said it public. Congratulations.
Well, not publicly, but
Yeah.
somebody asks you on a date, and you're sitting there eating some edamame, and you're like, "So I've never had sex. How about you?" Like,
I don't usually say it on the first date. It's like maybe if I really like the person.
because that's
it
a
might
lot of
come up on
pressure
the
there's a very small
third.
pool that would like that, but the bigger pool would be like, ugh, that's a lot of pressure for me.
Great. Bye.
Okay, yeah, great, bye. I still think this leaves you a pretty big pool to date in.
Yeah, I
still
think people would be like, wow, she doesn't have an STD, never had an abortion.
That's
Not a
fear-based
lot of
dating, though. If somebody's not
baggage.
having sex because they're afraid of an STD, that's fear-based, and that's a bad decision-making. You could get married and get an STD that nobody knew about.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm a germaphobe, so for me, I like to know if someone has
see,
one.
germaphobe is a reason.
Yeah.
I get that, too. But now you're like, you can't say, well, it's a religious reason, spiritual reason, but you're icky. Like, you kind of have to pick one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you could be complicated and be like, oh,
No.
that's a nice bonus.
You're basically stacking reasons like, well, this one wall breaks through, then we're going to have this one and this one and this one. At some point,
You're still talking about the guy who would potentially be dating me.
I'm
right?
talking
Not me.
about just any relationship you're going to get in. So what if he filled all those things, but he's like, listen, I'm not a virgin and I have a very mild STD from college, but it's under control and it doesn't flare up. And do you want to go out?
Right. I think you just described most of the population.
Yeah, that is
what I really wanted to get into, so to speak, is the fact that as somebody who's on this side of the, I don't know, it's a great love debate when it comes to sex.
Well, I'm not arguing your choice. It's no judgment. I'm just trying to understand the logic.
So I don't even know if it's logical. It's like,
to yourself, it has to be logical.
Right. It's more of a conviction. Convictions can be overturned. I know it's a conviction, meaning it's because you've changed a lot of different points. Are you worried that you're going to wake up at 52 and had sex and be like, oh my God, I could have been doing that for 35 years? No, because I have had fun and I've found ways to enjoy myself between, this whole time. And also I've been on dates since I'm 31 where, things have happened. But I also really believe so much that the intimacy that we experience every day on a regular basis, it's like, and so many women will say this, I don't know about the guys, but it's so overrated. And what's really important is that you have love. It's your best friend. And
sex and intimacy and love matter more than the sex. A lot of people need the sex because they're like, well, that's the intimacy, and it's not. It's an artificial sweetener. It's not. You can have sex and never be intimate. Some people never hold hands. Somebody never say I love you.
I don't kiss on the lips.
Some people, some people never do that. So I respect, and I kind of understand the choices. How often do you think about it? Not just the sex, but the marriage. Like, I'm 45 and
I used to think about it all the time. I used to pray about it all the time. I was on prayer lists with other women and we'd get together and I was like, I'm trying to do all the rules, God. I'm doing everything that and it's like.
But God doesn't have that rule.
So.
Not in your faith, right?
So which one are you talking about?
Well, you've changed Jewish denominations about 50 times, but do any of them say you shouldn't have sex before marriage?
Clearly you have not read the Talmud.
No, okay, I clearly have not.
That's okay. Well, you might enjoy it.
But it might say, I think it says it in the Bible, but it doesn't mean that it might. I think it's in the Bible.
There's 3 ways to know someone.
Yes.
One is through intercourse. One is through a ketubah. And one is through a nice piece of jewelry, which most people get all 3 when they get married.
This is South Florida. Yeah, you got to know some girl through a nice piece of jewelry. What is a ketubah?
A ketubah
is that a musical instrument?
Doesn't it sound like one? That's so cute. It's a legal document that binds a man and a woman together. And what it does is it's a prenup. And it says within it, by the way, one of the stipulations is a man should satisfy the woman sexually. And if he doesn't, those are grounds for divorce. And it's thousands of years old, which is really nice to know.
That's grounds for divorce in modern literature, too.
But find me one other group of people that treated women that way. I'd like to see it. I
get that too.
It's so anti-feminist. How can you be an Orthodox Jew?
Those are all reasonable things. So you're finding the hard part, finding the guy you want to marry or marry you? Like, so is there a support group for Facebook for women? How many women are like you? Do you meet a lot of them?
Yeah, there's sort of like a secret society, and I'm in a bunch of what we call Tehillim groups where we pray for each other once a month on the first of the Hebrew. We just had one 2 days ago.
Do you get excommunicated from the group if you just
not at all.
I got wasted in Vegas and it happened.
There's such a range, and there's born again virgin.
There's born again virgins too.
I mean, but I just want to say that I think in this day and age when it's so you get ridiculed sometimes, and I've been private about it for this long because
we're not ridiculing. We're really just trying to understand.
I appreciate you. I was nervous on the way over. I'm like, I think
I'm not, and I don't think it's wrong. People have all. It's a choice. I really respect a friend of mine who's a very again. Sorry about my amateur Judaism. When they wear the kippah, what level of Judaism is that? It could be anything.
I don't know. It could be anybody. There's Christians that wear them.
He honors the Sabbath.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a huge sports fan, so he's a Mets fan. He will not watch the game because of that. Okay. And I'm like, I really am almost jealous of his devotion to his faith. I like that. And I also think having strong faith or belief of any kind helps you deal with the circumstances of life a lot better. There's a higher power, there's a plan, there's this. I feel a safety that I'm jealous of people who have that, which is kind of way, like, I'm like, I understand the decision a lot better now. Because once we had a divorce attorney on the podcast, but she goes, some people do go in a marriage, go 20 years with no sex or no intimacy or no anything.
Right.
So once you get past 20, 25, the fun years, the peer pressure years, the drunk years, it's not that abnormal. Just most people did it early in their 20s and they're not virgins, but they lead a very similar lifestyle and they want similar things.
Right. Sadly, today, kids are doing it at 11.
Kids are doing it at 11, but maybe then they're not, they're like, okay, I did that. I checked it off. There's no more stigma. And you take it off. And then they're sort of ending up hopefully, maybe on the same path. Like if you did it once at 17 or had a crazy 20s, the born agains, they still can converge down the same path you are and end up in the same place. Where now I feel it's...
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's such a weird, like, oh, you didn't have sex. Like, there are people who they get triggered by me. And
do we know the percentage?
I don't look up statistics. I just try to take care of myself.
I know, but I'm legitimately curious,
I don't know.
Is it
I don't know if people
is it a
would be
true
open
blue
enough
lobster? Is it 1 out of 1,000 or is it 1 out of 50?
I don't know who would be open about it.
Somebody email us the statistic of women. I bet
then find out who paid for that statistic because we don't know if what's real and what's not.
But I wonder, like, women over 40, able-bodied people, physically capable, how many are, outside of the convent, how many are still virgins? I know one that I went to college with. She's super Catholic, though. And she never got married, so it was out of the question. And then she's like, I'm going to adopt a kid. And I don't think it's on her radar anymore. Because now she's just sort of checked out to it. But there's one I know. But I remember in my 30s knowing a lot of guys that I went to college with, again, Catholic boys. And they're like, I'm like, they're definitely virgins, and I would, and we would tell girls,
like a virgin alarm.
Well, they'd be out, and we'd be like in Vegas and a bunch of girls, and we would tell them that, and they looked at like a bounty on his head. They're like, I'm going to take his virginity tonight. They looked at it as a challenge. They didn't, and they couldn't, but the women were like, huh.
Yeah.
There's some men out there that would be like, you can't say that out loud, or they're,
Yeah.
I just wonder.
Please God, do not.
You're clearly comfortable with it, and you're clearly not ashamed of it.
No.
You're clearly turning it into creative material. You have to be dating, though.
I am.
Because it makes it.
Of course I am.
It's too easy. That's like my friend.
People set me up all the time.
Right. So they know then, there's a lot of guys, but I'm saying if you're looking for somebody who wants to go down that road with you, it's probably easier if you're dating a Christian, like a evangelical, because that's a bigger pool of them.
Right.
Who are willing to wait till marriage.
I'm not looking for a pool. I just want the right one.
I know. You don't need a pool. You need one. But if you're saying,
I love
there's
Christians.
only one.
I'm friends with
I'm just
a lot.
saying that
I love
one,
interfaith dialogue.
the very, hardcore wait till marriage, Tim Tebow, who's a Florida UF dude, he wouldn't have aligned with you?
I don't know. I think it took me so long to find home in my religious beliefs, and when I did, it hit me over the head, and it's not logical. It's like, oh, this is my truth. I can't give it to someone else, but I could say this makes sense. And my dad's a Kohen, and I come from this special tribe of Jews, and it's really beautiful. And what's really annoying is that I went to college, and I may have found it earlier, but every class I took in college was bashing religion so badly that there was no reason to even look. And that's why I went to India and Thailand and Japan, because I was like, oh, those are the ones I haven't really gotten into yet. Maybe truth is there. And I was actually reading a book. This is God's funny sense of humor. I took one book with me to India, and I used all my bat mitzvah money, by the way, which I had invested in Disney stock and sold on the day I graduated college.
As the Jew.
Yeah, right. And I used all of that money to find God in all these Eastern places. But not Israel. And on the way home, I'm reading the book, The Alchemist. It was the only book I took with me because it was small. I had this giant backpack and went backpacking to Chiang Mai and whatever. And I have this book, and the last page, spoiler alert, The Alchemist, bestseller, Paulo Coelho, it says, and he found the buried treasure under his own bed. And I'm like, what? And not only that, not only did I go, I wonder if I'm supposed to go back to Judaism, but clearly it's not reform and conservative how I was raised because it doesn't make sense for me. And then I was like, oh, I'll just be like this renewed Jew or Jew for, I didn't know what I was going to do, but it took me a while to find this rabbi and whatever. It was like a couple of years later. But once I found that home base, and then I wound up going to Israel and studying in it. You don't know this story, but I left the World Trade Center in June of 2001 to go into a storm of rockets and Gilo and it saved my life because I was temping there. But that's another story.
Most people be like, I need to have some sex after getting out of that.
Oh, anyway.
But hold on.
Oh,
so
God.
you're in Chiang Mai, which is, I've been there. It's in Thailand. It's it's beautiful and it's spiritual.
Definitely.
Doesn't the spirituality have a stronger pull when it is not defined by writings and rules and it's just a feeling
Great
between
question.
you?
I would love to answer. I totally felt that way until it wasn't enough. There was something missing, and I
You
thought,
need structure.
yeah. Well, I'm also a very type A person, and I think for me, learning about the mitzvot, which the commandments. Literally, the middle of mitzvot means saveh. That's like one of the Torah portions. It means to connect. So you would think that when you do them, it's just annoying. It's like, oh, I have to keep kosher, and then I have to, not drive on Shabbat and whatever.
Right.
The truth is, for me and a lot of people that I've, surveyed, the more you do them, the more connected you feel to God.
Probably.
Because you're like, oh, it would be
It's
much
a
more
reminder.
convenient. Yeah, but constantly. So then you start, there's 613 commandments when you're Jewish, not 10.
It's why the AA people go to meetings, even when it's not really about them drinking.
Oh my gosh. I used to say when I drive by all the AA meetings, like coming out of Roxbury Park and whatever in LA, the town, if they had just gone to synagogue or church or mosque or Buddhist shrine once before they started drinking, would they be in that place? If they were searching.
Yeah, they are. And it's about routine and it's a lot of that. All right. In the interest of time.
Okay. Do we need a part two?
Do you look 1 week ahead? Do you look 1 month ahead? Is it day by day? We're approaching a weekend here. Are you like, I need to have a date lined up? Are you on dating sites?
I'm on every dating site, mostly the Jewish ones, because I find that on like The League or Bumble or Hinge, if they do mark Jewish, they usually just have like one grandparent that was Jewish, or they're not really into it and they don't really care.
Right.
Because that's why they're on it. They don't care if you're Jewish or not. So I need to be with someone who's at least open to someone who really cares about it. But yes, I don't put pressure on myself anymore. I obsessed about it for a while, of course, because I was like, well, getting married will be the thing. And it's actually my relationship with God that helps me deal with not having that. And I'm still a hopeful romantic. Yeah. I'm not jaded. I still believe that my husband's coming.
That's good. We did a few of them. Jewish Great Jewish Love Debate. We did one at a temple in Beverly Hills. And
which one? Maybe you don't want
the
to
one on. No, I will on Wilshire.
Sinai
the
Temple?
big one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I worked there for
we
like
did
a
it
minute.
there. We
Yeah.
served the Manischewitz, the whole deal. And
Rabbi Wolpe.
most of the
Yeah,
and
good
most
guy.
of the people there, the attendees there, were like, well, all right, we've had our fun. Now we got to marry somebody that our parents are approve of, and we're back in the same pool. Like they all knew each other. They all had grown up together. They all go to temple together, and they were like, okay, we're back. This is where we got to get married.
Wow.
It didn't seem that fun. It seemed like they were forced back into a pool from the other club. They're like, okay, now I'm 30 and we got to get married. So it was interesting though.
Any matches from that?
I'm sure. I don't know. It was like 6 years ago. I mean, we did a bunch of it. We did one there. We did one in Cleveland. We did one in New York. And it was a little bit of the same vibe. It's like, okay, I cannot marry outside the faith, even though it was really fun dating outside the faith. So we're going to do you said that you made your mark in the entertainment world doing some impressions.
Yes, I have about 65 that I do. In fact, if you
Give me the three greatest hits.
Amy Schumer say the F word in Snatched, and then it sounds like she said fudge, but her mouth looks like she said the other thing. That was me.
Oh.
I get paid all the time from that movie, doing her and Goldie Hawn's voice, and even Wanda Sykes. I do her. I think the first impression that I did that I actually got paid for was Sandra Bullock's voice, and she thought that I was her. Yeah. When she came back, she says to Paul Feig, like, wait, that's me, right?
Yeah.
He's like, no, that was Barb.
So what does Sandra Bullock sound like?
I don't know, sir. Anybody? There's a train coming, and it's an express train. Oh God, you smell so good. I'm sorry. You want to love me?
All right.
Okay.
Good. Next. Who do you got? That was good, by the way.
Helen Hunt. I actually met her a couple times, and
Okay.
I was so scared to talk to her because I thought that I was going to sound like her when I met her because
You don't want to do impression of them to them.
no,
Yeah.
bad.
Okay.
Especially Royal Hollywood,
Right.
like Oscar winners.
Yeah.
No, bad idea.
Right.
And she's very weary around people. So, but we have so many friends in common. So we're at the
Right.
same party, and my friend goes, "It's your time. That's it. Get
Mm-hmm.
over here." And she goes, "Hi, I'm Helen," and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Barbara." I didn't know what to say. I was like, "I'm a computer. I'll be
Yeah.
my Siri voice."
That was good.
Paul, you're like a child. I'm not. What is wrong with you? And then you turn out to be this nice man. Well, I can see why you're troubled.
All right. One more.
I don't know.
That's it? Those are the two?
I mean, so many people.
Give me one. One more.
In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. My name is Lady Whistledown, but I used to be the first Mary Poppins.
I also love to do Melissa McCarthy.
Okay.
But
Do Melissa
that's a
McCarthy.
bonus.
Give me a bonus. Melissa McCarthy.
Can you feel the heat of my my undercarriage? Because it's it's a virgin down there. I'm not gonna lie, but whoo, 2, 1.
So you do that.
I
Do that on a date. That'll loosen these dudes up so you can have sex with them. Good. All right. And this is your first time on the podcast. We're probably going to have you back because I'm sure you're going to lose your virginity. You're going to come back and be like, oh my God, we inspired you. But we play something called worst date or first date. So you either have to give us the greatest first date you've ever had or the absolute worst date you've ever had. Your choice.
Okay. Oh my gosh. My greatest first date that ever happened was my first real date, and it was actually not far from here. I was working at Borders Books and Music at the info desk. This guy walks in. I'm like, oh my God, I recognize him from high school. We were both in college, and he was so cute. And I flirted with him, and that was really hard for me at that age, but I did it. And I got his number through a friend, and I called him on the real phone because we didn't have cell phones yet. And I said, what are you doing tonight? And he said, who is this? And I said, you're taking me to the melting pot. And he took me to the melting pot.
I love the melting pot.
We went to the beach, and he was such a gentleman, but we kissed and stuff. And it was like the best date I think I've ever, honestly, because I was like, everything worked. There was no games. It was,
He didn't try anymore?
no, he was
All
such a
right.
gentleman, but I was so freaked out because of how intimate it was that I was really sketchy with him, and we never went out again. I called him and I said, I'm not ready for this. My dad just left. And
Oh my God. If you had sex with him, you'd be married already.
yeah, but funny enough, I saw him many years later in New York. I flew to New York from LA for a shidduch date, and I was so excited. I was like, every time it was like, this has to be the one. And the guy, this is one of my worst dates, 30 minutes into the date goes, I've got 3 girls to date this weekend from London. I really don't think this is going to work out. And he gets up and leaves, and I walk outside, and
Yeah.
I'm praying to God, full like a homeless person. How could you do that to me? This guy, and I'm crying, and he flew me in, and
Yeah.
we had 30 minutes. I mean, that's a long way to fly.
You've ruled out people in less time.
And I see the guy that I went out with at the melting pot.
Yeah.
And he's with his wife, and she's pregnant, and he's walking literally down the street as I'm yelling at God about like a homeless person. And he goes, Barb? And I'm like, oh my, hi. And I'm wiping so you know what I realized?
She had sex with him and now they're married?
No, God was sending me a lifeboat. Like you're going to have a good one again.
You are going to
Because out of,
All right.
but I have so many bad dating stories. That's why the materials.
We'll bring you back. Plug whatever you want to plug.
I have a podcast that is not that funny, but it's very heartwarming. It's called C1 Beautiful Soul. It's all spelled out, c1beautifulsoul.com. It's on my website. And yeah, it's
your
just won
website?
an award.
BarbHeller.com?
BarbHeller.com, but you can also get there through c1beautifulsoul.com. I have a book called And Then One Day the World Coughed about the blessings of the pandemic. And I coach people on how to release your creativity and open up. And you can hear me on Clubhouse every Wednesday with a bunch of other, I guess I'm a mental wellness coach person, from 4 to 8 Eastern time. We help people like live, and we've saved people from suicide and all that kind of stuff. Supposedly, you never know 100%, but it feels like it. And what else? I don't know. You can DM me, follow me on Instagram.
It's all on
BarbieHeller.com.
BarbieHeller.com.
It's all there.
You were fun. This was great. I hope
You're
it wasn't
fun.
too painful for you.
No, it was great.
As far as us, I promised you guys live dates, live tour schedule, August 31st at the very fabulous City Winery in Nashville, Tennessee. Those tickets will be on sale by the time you hear this. Boston, Massachusetts, also at City Winery. Sorry, City Winery is very nice venues. That's why they book us. Boston also should be on sale by the time this drops. Go to greatlovedebate.com, greatlovedebate.com for all of the tour dates. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com if you want to marry Barb and be the one to
please.
end the
I never thought
the
of that.
virginity streak.
That was a good
But
plug.
most importantly, like, share, follow. Please review this podcast. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem because, as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.